This year's light at the end of a very dark tunnel was 2016 space epic Passengers. Perfect for all those who are in love with Disney, but too proud to admit it. Engineer Jim wakes up from his hypersleep 90 years too soon for his destination, and his maddening loneliness leads to a troubling dilemma: whether or not to wake up another passenger. Well, that makes it sound like he did eeny meeny miny moe. Of course he has someone in mind. It's Hans Christian Andersen meets 2001 A Space Odyssey. And as soon as I confessed my love for the sci-fi romance to Facebook, an article popped up on my newsfeed from Bustle entitled "Passengers Lets a Major Consent Problem Mar What Could Have Been a Must-See Sci-Fi Story." By utilising a creepy scenario and qualities that could definitely be ascribed to rape culture, Passengers unfortunately loses its way, and made it hard for me to enjoy. I'll wave my feminist flag and cheer on just about any female character that can handle their own, but reading Casey Cipriani's review felt like bashing for bashing's sake. Despite her name and her state, Aurora isn't a princess with no goals beyond finding a husband, and Jim is not Dustin Hoffman banging on church windows. In fact, I'd say Passengers brought fairy tales to the 21st century, with a woman that didn't need saved and an awkward bumbling prince. Let's stick a spoiler alert in here, just to be safe. Jim decides he's tired of being alone, so he's going to wake up the woman who has become the love of his life, despite the fact they've never met. The film makes it clear what Jim is doing is wrong. Jim has to be in an extreme state of loneliness before even considering waking someone else. He talks to a robot, tries to accept his fate, and even contemplates suicide before he even considers waking Aurora. Then he battles for months with the idea. It raises a question rarely asked. If you were stranded on an island, but had the chance to strand someone with you, would you take it? Then there's Aurora's reaction when she finds out. She can't forgive him, even though he's literally the only person in her life. She even beats him for it, which, to be honest, I thought was a refreshing move, since you don't see much in society that acknowledge domestic violence against males. No one involved in this movie is saying what Jim did was in any way right. But what would this world be if no one could forgive? 50% of marriages would end in divorce. He reads her biography, watches her videos, and sits next to her while he reads her writing. The whole scenario turns out a bit stalker-like and obsessive. Say he didn't do all that. Say it was love at first sight and he immediately got his toolkit and smashed her pod. What would you say then, Bustle? That he knew nothing about her. Might I ask if you've ever looked at a dating profile? Ever seen a face you'd stick on a poster? Then looked at a written profile to see that your crush thought Hitler had some good points? Jim was doing his research. Just turns out he has good taste. Speaking of first sight, here's where the Sleeping Beauty connection of the character's name kicks in. Even as she sleeps, Jim is immediately smitten with her. The cynics don't believe in love at first sight anymore, but surely love stems from attraction at first sight. For those of you who are maybe not aware, a lot of attraction does start with what you see. Not all, but a lot. That one you saw in a bar, online, on the bus. And, like Jim, you get to know more before maybe saving up for a ring. I'd like to ask Casey what was expected of Jim. Really? Was I right with eeny meeny miny moe? The problem comes if Jim were to decide solely on her looks. First sight and nothing more is a problem. Attraction is perfectly acceptable. How you act on them is the important part. And I for one think Jim was the perfect gentleman. Until he woke her. In the end, she chooses not just to remain awake with him, despite what he's done, but to fall back in love with him. Let's just gloss over the fact that no one really chooses to fall in love. Admittedly, Aurora's final decision didn't suit her character. She's a career-driven woman who plans to leave behind a legacy and go on an adventure, and she set it aside for a simple life with Jim, who just wants to build a house and love. Although I believe they struck a happy medium there. Aurora attempts to still leave behind a legacy in the form of her book, having had more than enough adventure for one lifetime. Is it so bizarre that she'd want to settle eventually? Plus, feminism is about equal options and choices without judgment. At-home mother or breadwinner, a mix of both, doing it alone or not. It's no one's business but your own. Aurora can stay on a ship with just her man if she wants. That's her choice. That's the point. A story where the couple live happily is a romance. A story where the couple die is a tragedy. A story where the couple fall out and cannot forgive, whilst more realistic, is not a story. Or at least not one worth telling. What would you get from watching that? Neither an optimism for your own future and love life, nor a lesson to enjoy life while it lasts, but a petty ball of bile at the pit of your stomach asking, what's the point? The most striking characteristic of the ideal romance, its resolute focus on a single, developing relationship between heroine and hero, is noticeably absent from those judged to be failures. Possibly due to views like Bustle's, the modern romance movie is all but destroyed. The closest thing we've had to the romance movie that doesn't star either a princess or a teenage mythical creature, instead stars a sex dungeon. What does that say? And if feminism is all about equality, try to think of the guy's side of things too. Not every male of the species is a catcalling, personal space invading creep. There are still those who suffer cardiac arrest from the idea of approaching the girl they have their eye on. How is the human race even supposed to carry on when the sight of a woman is no longer grounds to approach them? Not to mention we're talking about human nature here. There is a difference between what is consciously wrong and what is simply human nature. Pay gap, consciously wrong. Kissing that guy you met on holiday even though you don't know anything about him, human nature. Literature lifts and elevates what you want. 50 Shades of Grey didn't take off because Christian Grey said he needed a new assistant, but HR department said it had to be male. Love is subjectively felt as an emotion. Indeed, this is what, for many, love is. All of these aspects of love are social, and all interrelate and impact on each other, but not always predictably, giving rise to contradictions and tensions. I'd say don't listen to Bustle on this one occasion. Some girls still want to be swept off their feet. Go for it, approach. Just be a gentleman about it. And that comes with asking, not telling. So what did you think of Passengers? Have you ever felt conflicted in something you want to say, in case it gets a drink thrown in your face?